Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm very thankful and excited for this next hour to share this next hour or so with you. Project Flourish, in its second iteration, actually finished. It completed as a competition in March. In fact, the pitching to the judges happened the week before the COVID shutdown, the COVID craze really began. So what a blessing in disguise, what a providence that we were able to complete all of our pitching. We were able to complete all the competition before we could no longer be together in person. So what you're going to see today are the 6 winning pitches that you would have seen at our congregation celebration day that we had planned for late March. We were going to see all these pitches live as a congregation over a lunch back in March. I wish we could be in person to share this, but this will have to do. And I'm just thankful that we get the chance to share an update of what happened and ultimately who our winners were. We had over 60 applications. Of those 60, we had 14 semifinalists. And of those 14 semifinalists who all pitched to the judges, we had 6 that the judges selected as Project Flourish winners, and we were able to receive the prize funding, the award funding that the session has allocated in this last round of Project Flourish. So you're going to see all 6 pitches from our winners, and you're going to have an update, a little dialogue with each of them afterwards. I cannot think of more important work, more hopeful work than the work that these applicants, these Project Flourish ventures are undertaking right now in the midst of a global pandemic, even before the global pandemic. In many ways, their work has become even more critical and more important for the good of the city. It was such a privilege for us as a church to walk alongside them, to learn from them, and to be able to gather as a group every Wednesday night and have a little lab, a Project Flourish lab, and dream about what it means to be people who seek the good of the city after the heart of God, for the good of neighbor. So I hope you enjoy this. I want to say a big thank you to all of our applicants. I want to say a big thank you to all of our Project Flourish volunteers. We had over 100 or so folks, again, from First Pres, touch this process, whether they were screeners or navigators or skills coaches or judges or all in between. We had so many people touch this project in its second round, and at the end of the day, that's the goal, and that's our hope, that as a church we can come together and creatively deploy the 3 capitals: the social capital, the spiritual capital, the intellectual capital. I guess there's a 4th capital, and the social capital, and for the good of these applicants and for the good of our city. So it's an honor for us to be together. Thank you so much for tuning into this. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope we can be together one day again soon and hear these pitches live. So until then, without further ado, please enjoy our Project Flourish winners from this last round.
Hello. Texas parents are overwhelmed by the cost of childcare. Today, 1.3 million impoverished Texas kids are in need of safe and affordable care. But for every 10 who need it, only 1 gets it. I first learned about this issue while working downtown in CPS court as an attorney. Parents were working 2 and 3 jobs, and they still could not afford it. For single parents, paid childcare was rarely even on the table. Instead, they were asking boyfriends and neighbors they barely knew and family members. Many of these people had drug addictions, and some of them were even sex offenders. Last June, I had seen enough. I began making appointments and I began praying. I met with over 70 leaders in Houston for child and welfare services. And through those appointments, I learned that there was a subsidy which parents could apply for, but it was woefully insufficient. I thought, surely there must be some charity in this town, a major charity that is trying to work on this. But no, And the reason is because the numbers, the cost was so astronomical, it wouldn't make a dent. Houston was recently ranked the worst city in the United States for single parents out of 100 American cities, and here's why. A minimum wage worker can only earn $15,000 in a calendar year. Yet infant care for just one baby costs $10,000. And this is at a minimum standard facility. The good kind, that'll run you $20,000. And the difference between a 10 and a 20 is night and day. For example, here at First Pres, if this church were to offer full-time infant care, it would run just over $21,000 based on their hourly rates. And this is the appropriate amount. Good care is extremely expensive. Unfortunately, the only help for this kind of cost comes by way of that subsidy I mentioned. But unfortunately, the wait list in the Gulf Coast alone is between 8,000 and 12,000 families at any given time. Even if parents get the full 10,000, 3 out of 5 facilities will reject it because good care doesn't cost 10, it costs 20. But good news, our good and merciful God is still the giver of ideas. And what I'm about to show to you is a model which I have since pitched to every leading child care expert in Houston, including CPS, and the response has been phenomenal. What we could do is we call it the One School, a single parent cooperative. In essence, we're going to train parents to supplement teachers to lower cost and increase quality of care. We're going to start with a pilot of 10 families with kids ages 6 weeks to 3 years old. This is the most expensive population for childcare, and it is the most vulnerable. They're at the highest rate for abuse. We hope to open this model in August, and here's how it works. We create a class of 10 kids. These are their parents, by the way, in the blue. We call their parents A through J for illustration purposes. We invite A through J to participate in the training to become a child care worker. It takes 24 classroom hours to pull this off. We're actually going to invite 20 parents to participate in the training with the hope that we can get our 10 plus create a wait list. Once parents complete the training, along with drug tests and background checks, we put them into the following schedule. Monday through Friday, we have one experienced, highly qualified, Christ-centered teacher who's with those children at all times. We're going to pay this person very well, $24 an hour, the same as a kindergarten teacher. And we're actually going to split this job between a morning teacher and an afternoon to promote longevity because it's a long day. Once we have those teachers, the more experienced of those two will double as our child care director. And I am committed to being the executive director, unpaid, until we have 3 locations. Then we plug in our parents. Parents A and B on Monday, C and D on Tuesday, et cetera, et cetera. That's 2 parents a day for our 10 parents, right? That uses all of our parents. Parent A, for instance, volunteers every Monday at the One School, but Tuesday through Friday can leave their child free of charge. This is 44 hours of free, faith-based, highest quality education to facilitate work or outside employment. And all of our parents will be working or in school, and all will be on the subsidy. 10 children with 3 teachers brings just shy of a 1-to-3 ratio. That is on par with the finest facilities in Houston, and this will be one of the finest facilities in Houston with excellent facilities, excellent teachers, excellent care. Except instead of a $20,000 price tag, we're looking at $14,500. And 50% of that is covered by the government subsidy, because how that subsidy is structured, it does not hinder our ability to share the gospel. Except the first year is going to be really hard because remember that wait list, right? And so we need to raise $200,000 to start, 54 of which we have already found, which brings us to our ask. If you'll remember in our business plan, we had 3 gift ideas. To be clear, any amount would be useful. but our largest was quite sizable. It was for $100,000. This is 50% of our first year's goals. This amount would keep us on track for an August open, which is our greatest hope. But there's an even bigger reason. Do you remember all those connections that I made? Well, what that essentially did was it put a lot of eyes on this project, which we are excited about for sure. But the thing is, the goal is not that a lot of eyes be on us. The goal is that eyes be on Jesus as he works through us. And for that reason, we would love nothing more than to tell people that this project was foremost started by a church who through it brought the love and safety of Jesus Christ to infants and toddlers in Houston. Thank you.
All right, everybody, it's a privilege for me to introduce you to Jennifer Johnson. She's a good friend of mine. She's become a good friend of Project Flourish. And Jennifer, I would love for you to just introduce yourself and the vision and the heart behind Project One Day.
Hi, first of all, just thank you so much for this opportunity to do this first press. I'm so grateful. So yes, I'm Jennifer Johnson, and I entered Project Flourish because I had a business idea, a nonprofit business idea, to help single parents have access to free childcare. And the way that this first was laid on my heart was I was trying to go back into practicing law. I've been a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and I worked for CPS when I was in law school. And I was trying to get back into it, and I was sitting in court day after day trying to learn how to do this again, how to represent kids in CPS court. And I realized that so many of the cases were about people just not being able to have childcare. They were doing just scary things a lot of times with their kids, leaving them alone and stuff because they couldn't afford that. And often it was so they could get to their job. And this broke my heart. And so I went just on a crazy mission to try to find a solution to that. And I think I found one. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer, it was a real privilege to have you as part of the semifinalists, group with Project Flourish. Just describe briefly how Project Flourish helped you, what it meant to you, any takeaways that you had from it, and outside of course, winning one of the largest awards, just your overall experience.
Sure, it was a great experience. First of all, the people, you get to meet these other people that love Houston, and they are making very real sacrifices in order to help our city. And that is just, it's a great way to spend your day, your evening and every week. And but what they did was they gave you a mentor, and my mentor was a really sweet lady, Benigna, and she just helped me come up with a great game plan, like a legit business plan for my idea. And one of the best things that came out of that was we were asked to create a 20-page business plan. Where it was very organized and explained, our idea and the finances behind it, and where we're going to get the funding, just every question possible. And I have been able to use that thing since Project Flourish over and over and over again, emailing it to people. And I don't know that I would have done that, had I not had Project Flourish of going through that, because frankly, it was crazy hard to make. But I'm really glad that I did. So.
Yeah, well, no, that's it's one of the great blessings of being able to just be in community, share your idea with others, get that feedback. And it was so fun. You were one of our most committed, Wednesday Night Lab attendees. So it was a pleasure and a privilege to have you. And since the competition, since March, through COVID, how have you been? What has changed? How can we be praying for you in Project One Day? What are some specific ways, if any, that we can come alongside you as you kind of navigate through this challenging time? And just let us know what we can do.
Thanks. So COVID has changed. It changed my life. It's changed all of our lives. It's been hard in some ways, but also really good. I'm going to tell you, spiritually, this has been good for me to have a challenge in this way, and literally leaning on God to help us through this time, because that's where Jesus, really shines, right, is in times of uncertainty. But as far as COVID goes, so we had a timeline that we wanted to open our first house in August. And here we are in August. And to be frank, we're just now signing the lease for the house. And that put us behind on our schedule, which made me sad at first. But you know what? God is sovereign. And so I'm hopeful that starting now that we can get rolling here and get us going. So fundraising is a challenge for everybody, right? Because you want to have that gathering, you want to make your pitch and share that, and you can't do that now. So if say can you pray, right? It would just be to pray for nonprofits right now, those that exist for sure, and those that are new, and just really going to our heart of how can we help them in this time, and ours is no exception. So just if you stay in touch with us on our website, it's podhouston.org. So that's it.
Wonderful. Yeah, well, we'll make sure that people have the way to get in contact with you to learn more. Project One Day is doing fantastic work. Jennifer is doing fantastic work in our city, and it's been a real honor and a privilege for us to come alongside you, and it's exciting for us to continue to come alongside you. And I'm very sorry that our in-person celebration day had to get canceled, but hopefully, we got to see your pitch through this recording, and you're doing well. So anything else, Jennifer?
I think that's it. Just thank you to the church for thinking of this. I have, in my pitch at the end, I talked about how one of the things that I wanted was, by y'all gifting this to us, I wanted to use that as a tool for Jesus and to glorify him by sharing that, hey, we already got this incredible contribution from followers of Jesus Christ. And by doing that, that's a light to our city and to other donors that Christians care about single parents out there who are struggling. Yeah. And so anyway, so I'm so grateful for the church for giving me that opportunity to do that. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we'll be in touch, Jennifer. Take care, and thanks for all that you do.
Good evening. My name is Tommy Garcia-Prats. This is my brother Dan Garcia-Prats. We're the founders of Small Places LLC. And when we started the farm in 2014, the miracle of Jesus feeding the 5,000 took on an extra layer of meaning for us. I just moved back to Houston from Nicaragua after my third successive year farming in different parts of the hemisphere. And I just assumed I'd find a good farming job in the area and be closer to family. But it didn't take long. I not only could not find a farming job because there's basically no farms in the Houston area, but just a brief look at the state of food and health in the Houston really was shocking to us, with 1 in 6 Houstonians food insecure, with 750,000 of our neighbors living in food deserts, and with almost half of the children in Harris County, overweight or obese. It was at this point that I stopped looking for farms in other parts of the country and started talking to Dan and our other brother Mark about starting a farm here in Houston. And it became our personal responsibility and our calling to be a part of changing the conversation about what it means to build a healthy community.
I quit my engineering job in 2014, and together we founded Small Places LLC with a mission to develop a culture of health in our communities by renewing the bond between people, place, and food. With an initial startup budget of around $14,000, we transformed a vacant lot in just east of downtown into our first farm, Finca Tres Robles, which is Spanish for Three Oaks Farms. Each year, we grow over 10 tons of produce that we distribute directly to individuals and families in the area.
It didn't take long for us to recognize that providing produce alone wasn't going to change the state of health in our community. And even when we look at the miracle of the feeding, it's about more than just giving 5,000 people enough to eat. We work to have our farm do more. We want it to be a hub of community and culture, where it's more than just eating healthy. It's about connecting with our neighbors, spending time with our family, learning new skills, as well as sharing our own, and being in a space where we all feel accepted.
Last year alone, we facilitated over 30 field trips serving 1,100 students from pre-K to college age. We facilitated over 40 classes in cooking, gardening, fermentation, baking, and more. We employ 2 full-time and 4 part-time staff and operate an apprenticeship and a high school internship program for local young people, and hosted a mix of over 30 free and paid events, from our community farm day to potlucks and dance performances to farm dinners and concerts.
Not having a long-term land agreement on our current farm has really limited our capacity for building out a complete vision for what we see as farms in our city. But we're excited to have been in conversations with Harris County, talking about a 30-year lease agreement on a larger site just a block away that would allow us to stay in the community where we've been building relationships for the last 6 years. And we're super excited about the possibility of that, of staying in the community, of having the capacity to fully invest in the space and implementing our vision, as well as, being able to fully invest in our community, which we care about deeply.
Our vision is much larger than our current 1.5 acres, though, and we've been working to expand our impact. Since 2018, we've been consultants with LBJ Hospital, which is a public hospital in Northeast Houston, to launch a 1-acre community farm on their hospital campus, the first of its kind in the nation. We've been in discussions with real estate developers and other nonprofits who are interested in starting urban farms of their own. And we hired a GIS mapping professional who's identified a preliminary list of over 300 vacant lots from 1.5 acres to 15 acres in East and Northeast Houston to be potential future urban farms and other deserving communities.
While our vision's growing, our narrow financial capacity as an LLC has really limited our ability to serve the needs of our community, especially those who lack the time and the resources to fully participate in our work. We're in the process of starting a 501c3 that'll operate our current farm as well as future farms, which will focus on raising money to help us serve the most needy in our communities. We will, however, be keeping the LLC to continue to consult, as well as help other organizations start, build, and run farms to serve their communities. This hybrid model allows us to serve both the needs of our most vulnerable communities, as well as address the growing demand across our city, regardless of income bracket, for people looking for a better way to be healthy.
We're seeking $90,000 from Project Flourish to achieve 3 main objectives: to thoroughly prepare and launch the 501c3 as a springboard to expansion, to position the 501c3 to take full advantage of the funding resources that are available, to develop a new farm design for the move of Finca Tres Robles to the new county site. And through the funding, we'll be able to leverage an additional $350,000 in grants and donations to help us launch, scale, and sustain the 501c3 and its programming. And we hope to activate an additional 2 to 10 acres of newly acquired land in other underserved communities to launch those farms there as well.
We've been working really hard to serve the 5,000 in our community, but we're at a place where we're going to be working towards feeding the 5 million. People look at our 1.5 acre farm and they keep telling us why it doesn't work. It's too small, it doesn't feed enough people, it's not a worthwhile investment, and it makes me remember why this miracle resonates with me so much, even more so now. It reminds me of Philip and Andrew who told Jesus in the miracle, what good is 5 loaves and 2 fishes among so many? That even half a year's wages wouldn't be enough to give everyone even just a little bit. And this work means so much to us. And we're so excited about the possibility of expanding the work that we want to do. And, the real power and the miracle of the feeding is not that Jesus fed 5,000 people. It's in what he personally demonstrates through his actions, that if we live by the math alone, there will never be enough. But if we stand by what we're being called to do, and if we act in service for our community, and we have faith that the Lord will provide, miracles will happen. Which is why we're here today in front of you, presenting our farm of 5 loaves and 2 fishes, asking for your help to turn it into more.
All right, everybody, I'm very thankful to be joined by my friend Daniel at Small Places LLC. Daniel and his brother pitched the Project Flourish judges this past March, and I want to have him introduce himself and tell you more about their operation there over in is it the 2nd ward, Daniel, or the 3rd ward, technically?
2nd ward.
2nd ward, okay. Well, why don't you introduce yourself and your guys' work?
Well, thanks, Austin. I'm Daniel Garcia-Prats. I'm one of the founders, alongside my brother Tommy, of Small Places LLC. And we currently run an urban farm in the 2nd ward called Finca Tres Robles. It is a community-focused farm that is located in a food desert that really looks to serve the community through access to fresh food, as well as education around that, both for adults and for children, as well as being a community building space for people to gather, come together and really build community.
Yeah, it is one of my favorite projects. It's super exciting. The work you guys are doing is so good. It's so needed. How has COVID affected you guys? How has it affected anything this summer? Has it, not necessarily on the actual business itself, but just on the need in the community, just in your interaction with the people around you? How have you navigated the last couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. We pretty quickly, once everything started to shut down, I mean, we pivoted pretty quick. We launched an online store to make it more accessible for people to actually access. And kind of strangely enough, we actually saw, an increase in interest and demand in the work that we were doing from people from all over the community, as well as outside, people just looking for quality, fresh produce. We actually connected with some other farmers. Because of the shutdown, there were farmers who actually lost sales because of restaurants closing down. So we actually connected with some of those farmers and actually began sourcing things from those farmers to begin meeting the increased demand that we had from people. And then we saw obviously an increased need as well from people, specifically people in our neighborhood who lost jobs and were kind of struggling at that time. So we actually put together a program to begin providing free bags of produce. And then through some partnerships with Nancy's Hustle, which is a restaurant over on the east side, they actually began sourcing bulk rice and beans for us so that we could bag up rice and beans to include with the fresh produce that went to these families, just to have something else to supplement the produce that we were providing. And so throughout the pandemic, we probably packed a little over 800 bags of produce for families all over the East End. And really, it's been a time where we've kind of tried to step up and do as much as we can and partner with a lot of the organizations that we already work with. So some of our excess produce was going to El Centro de Corazon, which is a clinic system in our area. And so families that were testing for food insecurity were actually being provided, produce that we were providing the clinic. We also connected with the Houston Food Bank, who got some funding to provide produce to some local schools. And so every other week we were packing an additional about 130 boxes of produce that the food bank was then delivering to certain preschools for families there. So we've kind of adjusted quite a bit, and we had to shut down. Yeah, we have been busy. We had to shut down a lot of our programming, no field trips, no events, and some of those sorts of things really shut down. But it also provided an opportunity for us to really focus on really serving the increased need that was happening, and full credit to our staff who were doing things they'd never done before and certainly wasn't a part of the interview process necessarily, but they really pivoted quick and we were able to kind of step up and I think address a need, and I'm really proud of all of our staff for all the hard work that they've done.
Well, that's awesome. You guys have been busy, and like I said, I think it's some of the most important work and one of the coolest pitches I've seen. And you guys won one of the biggest awards, even though this is your second year. So you were participants in Project Flourish in our first session, and you didn't walk away with the prize, so to speak. But just share, over the last year, 2 years, just any experience with Project Flourish, anything it did to help you guys outside of just obviously the award this year. What's notable about your experience that you think was helpful?
I think there's a number of things. I mean, I think the first round, it's like, obviously we were disappointed we didn't win, but it definitely, I think, prepared us for the second go around as well. And I think, it really forced us to, articulate and form and really think about our organization, what we're doing, how we grow and how we move forward, how we're serving the people of Houston. And so I think that really allowed us to start focusing in on what we really wanted our core mission and work to be about. Mm-hmm. And so, in the 2 years in between the two pitches, we still were utilizing, some of the tools and things that we brought together. We were in other pitch competitions that, the first round of Project Flourish helped us with as well. So, we were excited to be invited and able to come back to pitch again for the second round, because we felt like we'd really grown as an organization in those 2 years. And we're obviously really excited when we won this year, and have continued. There's relationships with other organizations and good people who are part of Project Flourish as well that we've continued to work with and partner with and support throughout our time, from the first pitch as well as from the second round. And so, I think it's really valuable to have built those connections, and be able to network with other great people doing great work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're so honored and thankful for you guys and your work and joining us at Project Flourish. And it's been so much fun. Is there any way that our congregation can help you, can serve you, is there any way people can learn more, or what's actually helpful in terms of how people can learn more about the work you guys are doing?
Yeah, if you're interested in learning more about some of the work we're doing, our website is the best place, to kind of look and see some of the things that we do and we've done. And that website is fincatrasrobles.org. And the other thing that I think would be most helpful is, we're still continuing to donate bags of produce to people. We're doing about 30 families a week still. And, through generous donations from various people, we've had about half of that covered by people, but the rest of that's coming out of the farm. And so, if anyone in the congregation has a little bit of money, obviously, helping us support this program to continue to provide to these families would be something that would really be helpful for us and allow us to continue to serve our community throughout this crisis. Absolutely.
Well, if you heard that, heed the call, friends. So anyway, Daniel, thank you so much for your work. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm looking forward to just watching and continuing to be a part of your cool work in the city. So thank you so much, and we'll be in touch.
Cool. Thanks, Austin.
You bet.
Good evening. My name is Marvin P. I'm the co-founder and executive director of 8 Million Stories. Our mission is to transform the lives of vulnerable youth between the ages of 14 to 18 through education, skills training, employment, and most importantly, transformational relationships. Our overall vision is to disrupt the school-to-prison pipeline here in Houston for our most vulnerable youth. This amazing, handsome, and sometimes irresponsible young man is DJ. DJ came to 8 Million Stories at 15 and a half, has been able to successfully matriculate into our program and graduate from 8 Million Stories. But DJ, another interesting fact about him is that he also represents just one of the 12,000 young people that come in contact with our juvenile justice system here in Harris County every year. And one of the concerning issues about this is that most of these contacts, the contact that many of our young people make with the system, are often for nonviolent offenses. And to make matters worse, after a young person spends almost anywhere from 3 months to 12 to 2 years inside of a detention facility, many of those kids don't get a second chance to go back into their communities, complete their education, or find meaningful employment. So as a result, 8 Million Stories, which is an alternative education program, was birthed to give exactly what our young people who come in contact with the system desperately need, a second chance. And we focus on doing it in 3 unique ways, focusing on providing them with educational opportunities where they can complete a GED through our program. Secondly, putting them on pathways to meaningful careers through our vocational training. But and most importantly, the last piece, which is the critical piece, is the social emotional support that many of our young people lack. So where we provide transformational relationships that often last a lifetime. This is an overall look of our budget. To run one side of our campus is $1.1 million. And most of that is comprised of corporate sponsorships and also in-kind support that we take advantage of to essentially provide the services of our young people. And the remaining costs are from state funding and also individual donors. This is an overview and a demographical look of the population that we serve. As you can see, primarily most of our students are males. But one of the things I really want to highlight is the average time spent out of school. On average, most of the kids that we serve are between the ages of 16 and 17. And most of our kids have spent more than 3 years out of a traditional school. And to make that even more concerning, the last grade most of these young people have completed is 7th grade. And so we are tasked with a huge responsibility of getting our young people to graduate through our program by passing the GED, which is testing our kids on 11th grade proficiency skill set, knowing that many of our young people have not even stepped foot into high school. So our staff does an amazing job of helping our young people to close those achievement gaps and be on a path to success. This is the impact that we've had in just 2 years. We started this program in 2017 with a desire to disrupt a very difficult systemic issue in our city, and this is the impact that we've had. And as you can see, we've done a great job. But one of the things we're most proud about is our recidivism. Out of the 41 kids that we have graduated in just 2 years, only one kid has gone back into the system as a result of being a graduate of 8 Million Stories. And that is one of the things that we want to make sure that we can replicate across our city. In just 2 years, again, these are the partnerships that we formed. And as you can see, your very own Main Street Ministries, which is also started in support by St. First Presbyterian Church, has been a critical player in supporting our work and ensuring that our young people can provide and receive opportunities to receive government-issued IDs and also find missing birth certificates and Social Security cards that many oftentimes prevent our young people from finding meaningful employment. And so we are really grateful for that opportunity to really close that gap that often prevents our kids from finding employment. And then we also have partnerships with the Houston Texans. DeAndre Hopkins is a huge supporter of our work. AT&T is our newest funder. And we also have been able to work very closely with Harris County Juvenile Probation and Starbucks as well. Our vision for scale. And so we currently operate one location at the moment in the Gulfton community. And while we are doing some amazing work with the students that we're able to welcome into our facility, one of the concerns that we often have and face is that our location is not central enough. And we all know that our city is extremely widespread. And the need for our young people to access our program is in high demand. And so what we've come to the realization is that we need to really start to think about how do we scale our model where we're bringing our program to the communities as a result of asking our kids, as opposed to asking our kids to come into the communities and service, to receive our services. And so we're currently operating at the Gulfton location, but our goal is to expand into the Aldine community where we're partnering with George Foreman, the boxer, and operating his youth facility. So George Foreman, if you may or may not know, had a troubled past. And one of the things that changed his life was Job Corps. And we hope to have that same impact on the lives of young people in that community as well, where we can be that beacon of hope for our young people that helps them to change that turn that corner and onto a path to success. And so our goal and my vision and my ask tonight is of a $90,000 investment to help us scale and to our next second site, where one, we can hire a program site manager to operate and help with the build out of the second location. And the remaining $30,000 will go towards investing in a 8 Million Stories graduate. One of the things we are focused on now is helping our young people break the cycles of poverty. And we want to really put our young people on a path to doing exactly that internally, where we can provide them with the support that they desperately need to be able to stand on their own. In closing, just want to say that when we first started this in 2017, 8 Million Stories was $60,000 in the hole. We had no money, had no experience in fundraising, and I bet on myself and I bet on God's ability to impact this program. And till this day, when we have our difficult moments of questioning whether we can actually have the impact that we want, I often go back to that moment where I sat in my car and stared at that building and said, $60,000, I've got to get us out the hole, and then I've got to raise my salary and my salary of my staff. How am I going to do that, right? And only God provided that opportunity. To say that 2 years later, we'd still be standing, I probably wouldn't believe it. But God can do amazing things, and what I've learned is that God counted us in. And I hope tonight what I shared with you makes you become a believer that our kids deserve to be counted in as well and not counted out. So thank you for your time tonight.
All right, everybody. Well, I'm so grateful and so pleased to be with Marvin Pierre today. He's the executive director of 8 Million Stories. He was one of our Project Flourish winners in this last round. And so, Marvin, I want to welcome you. I want to thank you for making time for us, and just want to ask you to share with folks who you are and sort of your heart and the story behind 8 Million Stories. So take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Austin, and I really appreciate the congregation making time and creating this opportunity for myself and many others here locally in Houston. So as mentioned, my name is Marvin Pierre. I serve as the executive director of 8 Million Stories. Our program was birthed out of this idea to disrupt the school to prison pipeline here in Houston, where 12,000 young people between the ages of 10 to 18 are referred to our juvenile justice system here in Harris County. And to make matters worse, when those young people come in contact with the system, they often have a hard time reintegrating themselves back into their community schools and finding meaningful employment. And so we realized that there was really no alternative path for our young people to really get the second chance and sometimes the first chance that they all need to be successful in life. And that was really what birthed the idea for 8 Million Stories, where we really focused on creating a program that could provide opportunities for our young people to complete their education, receive the necessary job skills, and then most importantly, address the social emotional needs that young people need to be able to succeed and thrive in our world today.
You know, it's such important work, Marvin. And this is actually, this was your second time through Project Flourish. So a lot of people maybe remember you from the first round, or you went through back in the first round back in 2017, 2018. You didn't win. This time you did win some money. So just share briefly about, you know, your experience with Project Flourish, the community, you know, things that you, how did it help you? What can you say about just the process?
I think definitely, one, we're very relentless. And so we realized that, you know, we had to keep at it, and we knew that we were still a new program that was developing. But most importantly, I think the Project Flourish experience really helped us in many ways. Although we didn't win our first time around, it really gave us a strong foundation and a network of support that we were able to tap in beyond the project. And that really helped to continue to build the momentum for our program. And when we had an opportunity to reapply and pitch again, it really positioned us to be actually stronger than we were the first time around. And so I really credit a lot of my coaches, the support that I had, and the exposure that Project Flourish gave 8 Million Stories to really allowing us to still be an organization that is in existence today. So really credit the network and support and the training that I received.
Well, we were so glad to have you, and I'm so glad that you reapplied for this round and that it worked out for you. And it was a blast. Now, since COVID and since March, when we last were with you, you know, what's changed? Has there been any challenges, you know, for just the implementation? And then secondarily to that, how can we continue to support you? How can people learn more, reach out, whatever? How can they come alongside you in this time?
Yeah, COVID definitely impacted us and many others here locally and nationally. But when we look at the impact that we had as a result of COVID-19 was really challenging for us, because many of our students, that in fact all of them, you know, really thrive in more supportive in-person environments, because that is one of the reasons why they've disconnected from schools, right? The personal relationships and the safe environment that they've been able to be a part of at 8 Million Stories really has put our young people in position to be successful. And what it also did was it allowed them to be removed from some toxic environments that really did not position our kids to be successful. And we know that many of them come from very, very challenging home environments. And when we were forced to go back to a remote type of platform, it really, we saw a lot of our kids regress from the progress that they made throughout the program. We had a lot of kids disengage because other things became a priority. And then there also were other things that were now distractions for them. And so it was a really painful experience for us. And what it really just affirmed for us was that, you know, when things got to be in a space where things were a little stable, we had to find a way to bring our kids back to in-person learning and really also keep at the forefront their safety and of them and also our staff. And so we are gearing up to relaunch our in-person learning this September. And we're really excited about bringing our program to the Third Ward community. We initially had been operating out of the Gulfton community, and we've recently partnered with Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church, where we're going to be actually running the 8 Million Stories program. So it's a unique space, really allows us to really create a more holistic experience for our students. And we're excited about that transition, because we know a significant amount of the students that are involved in the justice system and who are also disconnecting from our traditional schools reside in the Southeast Houston area. In terms of how, you know, the church can support us, this is a big transition for us, but it's also an exciting one for us. We're also definitely looking for ways to engage the community to come in and do some tutoring with our students, helping us with our back office support as an early stage organization, the technical platforms that we want to build to ensure that we are building a sustainable organization, I think are really important, and definitely want to leverage anyone in the congregation who has that expertise and has the time to really help us really build that out in a robust way. We're excited to welcome 2 of our alumni fellows. Because of the grant funding, they're all going to be able to go become one of our staff, 2 of our staff members. And so Christian and Avery are all going to be starting with us in the month of September. And they're really excited to now wear a different hat. So they go from students to now employees. And I'm really excited about them coming on board, because what I think is so critically important in the nonprofit space, especially when we're working with youth, is to create spaces for agency, youth voice to be uplifted, and their perspectives on things to be actually incorporated into how we do our daily business. And really excited about what Avery and Christopher are going to bring, but also excited about giving them a space to kind of do their personal development so that we can actually position them for post-secondary education or career pathways after their 1-year fellowship is complete.
Wonderful. Marvin, you're doing such important work. You know, it's really important, and I want to thank you for doing that work, and for it's tough, and for building this organization amidst a global pandemic and hanging in there. So we wish you all the best. We're so thankful for you and for what you've done. We're so honored that you participate in Project Flourish, and we just look forward to continue to watch you as you lead 8 Million Stories and all the folks that you touch. So thanks for your time, and sorry we couldn't do the pitch in person at the celebration day, but we'll have to get you back, you know, when we can gather again.
I appreciate that, Dawson. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, take care.
My name is Kim Brown. My husband Jay Brown is also here with me, and we're so excited to share our vision for Belong Bakery with you tonight. I want you to remember a time in your life when you felt isolated. Maybe it was the first time you left home to go off to college. Maybe you went through a period of unemployment where you questioned your purpose in life. Or maybe you were transferred to a new city and you moved and didn't have friends or didn't know anyone in town, and you felt alone and isolated. I want you to imagine that that period lasted your whole lifetime. Adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities struggle to find meaningful employment, purpose, and meaningful social relationships. Their families are afraid, hopeless, and dreading high school graduation because there aren't many opportunities after graduation. This is our daughter Ellie on the right. She's 19, she's a senior in high school, and she's going to graduate this May. That's why we started Belong. What is IDD? I'm going to be using that term. It used to be called mental retardation. You may be familiar with the term special needs. It means that we don't have a diagnosis and we don't know exactly what is causing her difficulties, but she has an array of difficulties. It affects her speech. It affects her learning. By way of example, she's reading on a first grade level. She's physically able to move around. She may have trouble with activities of daily living or self-help. Adults with IDD are underserved. Why is that? That's because the emphasis is on them as a young child. The emphasis is on intervention and getting them the tutors and the therapies that they need so that they can catch up. But sometimes that doesn't happen, and people like Ellie fall through the cracks. Adults with IDD want to work. There's no opportunity like this for them here in Houston. There's over 125,000 adults with IDD in Houston. At Belong, we're going to start our first location and we're going to employ 30 of them. What's the problem? IDD unemployment rate is 94% in Texas. Nationwide, it's about 80%, but Texas is far behind that. We want to start to change that here in Houston, across Texas, and then hopefully across the country. But we need your help. So we're going to start a bakery and a pantry. Jay is a CFO. He's put together a model that requires that we raise $450,000. We launched this in our backyard in May, and we've raised $300,000 so far. We need $150,000 from you all to help get us over the finish line. We're going to use that for our construction build out for our retail space. We're looking at about 2,000 square feet. We're hoping to nail down our retail location in the next couple of weeks, and we have a targeted open date of June. So the $150,000 goes for the construction and the kitchen equipment that we'll need to start Belong. It's a bakery and a pantry. Think family-size party pan meals prepared to be enjoyed in the home. Chicken enchiladas, lasagna, things of that nature. We'll have traditionally bakery items for breakfast along with coffee. We want to cater to businesses around the community and also have after-school specials to bring young kids in to see our adults. Our concept is on trend with what the market is doing right now. There's a huge increase in the demand for fresh, prepared entrees right now. It's over a $12 billion market. Over the last 2 years, sales in this category have been up 30%, and actually almost 50% of the meals that are purchased in a restaurant are consumed in the home. Now, how are we going to do this? We're going to provide state training, food handling for these young adults. We're going to give them on-the-job training, get them certified, and provide them with transferable job skills. We're fortunate that we're working with a teacher and educator that's been in Spring Branch ISD for over 30 years. She's been in charge of the culinary program. She's worked with typical students and also with special ed students. Our daughter Ellie is in one of her classes right now, and she's had success in getting these students to actually produce chicken enchiladas, pumpkin rolls, and things of that nature. We're forming strategic relationships with people across Houston. Ellie's neurologist is the head of neurology at Texas Children's. They have a transition program. They're trying to bridge the gap between children and adults with IDD. They want to work with us to feed us job candidates. Spring Branch ISD wants us to provide concessions for them district-wide, year-round for all of their sporting events. We're working with another partner who approached us just last week and asked us if we could produce 14,000 pounds of cookies several times a year. They want to give us that business because they like what we're doing, and it's important to them that we use employees that have IDD. So we have all of these other things going on that are good sources of consistent income in addition to the large meals. Our youngest daughter asked me if I ever wonder why this happened to us. And the story of the blind man in John answers that question beautifully. When the disciples came across the blind man, they asked Jesus, did his parents sin or did he sin? What caused him to be blind? And Jesus said, no, this isn't the result of some specific sin. It's not about punishment. It's so that God's work could be seen in their lives and in the blind man's life. That's what we want for Belong, is we want our customers and our volunteers to see God at work in these young adults with IDD. Project Flourish is about redemption. It's about restoration, hope, love, sacrifice, and freedom. Belong is all of those things. We are asking you to stand alongside us as we transform the lives of these young adults with IDD from a place of loneliness and isolation to a place of belonging and flourishing. Thank you.
All right, everybody, I'm very excited for you to meet Kim Brown. I'm going to have her introduce herself in a second, but Kim was one of our Project Flourish winners in this round of Project Flourish back in March. And the name of her venture, the name of her initiative is called Belong Bakery. So Kim, why don't you tell us about yourself and about Belong Bakery?
All right, I'm the founder of Belong Bakery. We started Belong Bakery for our middle daughter, who is 20 years old and has intellectual and developmental disabilities. Once these young adults graduate from high school, there aren't very many opportunities in the community for further education or for employment. And so what we wanted to address was providing employment for these very capable, very special young adults, but also filling a need to provide social interaction for these young adults with others in the community to sort of get the word out and show people that they're capable and they need to be part of our community.
I love it. I mean, I think that's some of the extremely important work. And I know when I was watching your pitch, you know, just the heart of a mom really shines out in your work. And it's so cool that it was just a part of your own story, your experience, and how you're creating this bakery concept. So explain for folks, where you are today, just kind of what the status is, how COVID's affected things, and yeah, just kind of what's going on.
Well, so Belong really was born out of necessity. Our middle daughter graduated in May in the middle of COVID. And so this is her next step. And so COVID sort of slowed us down in terms of finding a retail space. That's where we are right now. But it also sort of brought home the real need for this and the lack of opportunities out there, especially during this time. So right now we're continuing our search for retail space, but we've decided to go ahead and start our classes. We're going to provide culinary instruction and hands-on cooking for about 7 students that we already have already.
That's awesome. I think that's the right, just to start, iterating and trying things out is probably the right move. So talk about now just briefly your experience with Project Flourish. What are some takeaways? What was most valuable to you? What, how did that, outside of obviously being a winner, how did just the process work for you?
Well, we were so honored to be chosen for the program. The information about the program and just, the mission is so fabulous. And so we were just honored to have been chosen. Austin is fabulous. And it was an honor and a privilege working with you and your whole team. I think for me, I was just blown away by the caliber of people that were involved and being surrounded by people that are like-minded, that are trying to do something good, something that's near and dear to their heart. They have a cause or a mission, and just being around Christ-centered people that want to make the world a better place was honestly a new thing for me. I've been an attorney and haven't really been around that part of the business world, and so it was refreshing and enlightening and just comforting to know that there are other people out there trying to do good.
Yeah. Well, it really is. The community formation is one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. And just being able to spend time, like you said, with people doing good and hard things, that often the payoff isn't, it's not immediate and maybe never happens. It's just because of their commitment. So when we were honored to have you, Kim, and we're thankful for your work. What are ways people can, support you, learn more, stay in touch, just as we go forward?
Well, I think right now we would appreciate just prayers for the perfect retail location. That's sort of been what's holding us up for a while now. We're very picky about our location and where we want to be. We want to be in the community, close to high school kids and families that can volunteer and support. So I would say prayers for location, and then also just prayers as we start to train and employ these young adults. Just that we would be patient and mindful of the real purpose that we're here, and just sort of getting our feet wet and learning how to do things and learning what the employees are good at, what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, and really just making it a place that they can feel worthy and capable and enjoy being around each other. So just sort of starting to see our mission come to life and hoping that others will take notice and want to support it.
Yeah, well, it's an incredible mission. It's essential. It's important. It's all the more important in this age of disembodied community where people don't even have community and they're very lonely. So I'm so thankful for your work, and we're so proud and excited to see what happens next. So thanks so much for this little update, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds good. Thanks for everything. It was great.
You bet.
Good evening. My name is Erica Raggett. I'm the Executive Director and founder of A Second Cup.
And I'm Kaylin Simpson, Program Manager for Brazen Table. More slaves exist today than at any other point in history. An estimated 30 million worldwide. This is not just a problem in third world countries, it's a problem in our country, in our state, and even in our city. And the most terrible part about it is that the average age of entry into sex trafficking in the United States is between 12 and 16 years old. These are our children.
In 2010, I was working as a middle school teacher when I first heard about these realities. And with their age and living in under-resourced immigrant communities, I knew that the students who were sitting in my classroom every single day were highly vulnerable. And I was horrified and heartbroken, imagining what it would be like for them to be trafficked. But what would it look like if they were lucky enough to escape? What would it mean for them to only have a 7th grade education, no work experience, and to have endured such immense trauma? How could they be expected to find and maintain any kind of healthy employment? How could they be expected to survive in the world, let alone flourish? And so after many months of researching and learning and volunteering, I decided that the most obvious solution to fighting human trafficking was to open a coffee shop. So in 2011, I started A Second Cup, which is a nonprofit coffee shop working to fight human trafficking in our city. And in 2015, we opened our brick and mortar, and I hired Kaylin for her culinary expertise to serve as our executive chef. So A Second Cup fights human trafficking by educating the public, partnering with our anti-trafficking allies, and providing aftercare for survivors. And so over the last 5 years, we've been able to serve and educate over 75,000 unique customers. We've partnered with our allies to host over 400 awareness events, and we've grown really deep ties with the anti-trafficking community. In 2018, with success under our belts, we decided to take another leap of faith. And we started a training program for survivors called Brazen Table that would allow us to really invest our resources, our knowledge, and our skills into the lives of survivors. So we've spent over 9 years collaborating with our anti-trafficking allies, and we've noticed that survivor support takes the form of a continuum, starting with initial recovery like street-level intervention and drop-in centers, moving into immediate care like safe housing and counseling, and even ventures like jewelry making and candle making. But despite the amazing work of this anti-trafficking community, we identified a tremendous gap between intermediate care and full freedom and restoration that survivors need. There was no one who was providing any kind of job skills that transfer into real world careers. There was no one really thinking about how do we teach people critical thinking and problem solving and conflict management that can help them maintain a job. But our program, Brazen Table, is now filling that gap.
Survivor leader Allison Franklin echoes this need by saying the inability for a survivor to get a job is one of their largest barriers to recovering. And the Apostle Paul says, "For it is for freedom that Christ has set us free." But we found that even if they've been rescued off the streets, they still aren't free. They're faced with sustained unemployment, debt, and this desperation to provide for themselves and their children. These are the major vulnerabilities that put them at risk for trafficking in the first place. And if we're unable to place them and help them maintain a job, we're putting them right back in those vulnerabilities. They're at risk to be trafficked once again. Brazen Table is a culinary and job skills training program for survivors of human trafficking aimed at breaking this cycle. We empower survivors to reclaim their personal identities and their futures through job skills, hands-on in-depth training. We're preparing participants with tangible skills that can launch them into viable careers in food service and hospitality. The program is broken down into 4 phases, lasting anywhere from 6 weeks to 1 year. Participants have the ability to graduate and exit the program at any point to find a career with the support and continued support of our staff. This structure gives them the ability to make a choice, something that has been stolen from them for far too long. We'll be launching phases 1 and 2 in May of this year, where participants will learn the basics of working in a commercial kitchen and will begin paid employment in our catering program. Phases 3 and 4, though, are incredibly exciting for us, and that's where you come in. Graduates of our first 2 phases will become paid apprentices in our new training restaurant, where they will spend 6 months learning the ins and outs of a commercial restaurant, working side by side with trainers in a professional setting to learn what they like, what they're great at, and what they never want to do again. They will then have the opportunity to continue growing the skills as they learn to manage the restaurant and to begin to teach, coach, and mentor the survivors that are coming in after them. We know these last 2 phases are going to be incredibly powerful in the lives of these survivors, and we know, and we're asking that you help us launch them into this. We have a really exciting opportunity to open this training restaurant in a historic home in Midtown. This great location will also be doubled as an event space. These factors, combined with our experience in building and running one of Houston's best coffee shops, allows us to be able to generate 87% of the entire program cost by 2025.
In partnership with Trinity Episcopal Church, we are responsible for providing $100,000 of the total cost of build out for the project. So we're asking Project Flourish to provide the key funding to launch this innovative new aftercare model. We would love for you to walk alongside us in the mission to empower survivors of human trafficking by providing $100,000 for the build out of this restaurant. This generous investment will equip survivors to walk into freedom. And this is what the church is called to do. We're called and anointed to bind up the brokenhearted and proclaim freedom for the captives. We're called to release prisoners from darkness and share his good news with the poor. So we're inviting you to join us on this journey as survivors reclaim the lives God intended for them. Lives of beauty instead of ashes, joy instead of mourning, and praise instead of despair, as they become oaks of righteousness, displaying the splendor of the Lord.
So on behalf of a few of our program graduates in the past, and the ones that will continue in the future, we thank you so much for your time and your consideration, and we welcome any questions that you may have for us.
All right, everyone, I'm very excited and thankful to be with Erica Raggett. She is the executive director of A Second Cup, and you just saw her pitch, and I'm excited for you to get to hear her story and the story of Brazen Table and all that's going on. So Erica, introduce yourself and just share a little bit about the vision behind Brazen Table and A Second Cup.
Yeah, well, my name is Erica Raggett. I'm the founder and executive director of A Second Cup. And A Second Cup, if you've never heard of us before, we are a nonprofit coffee shop working to fight human trafficking in Houston by educating the public, so utilizing our space to really get people to understand what human trafficking is about, where it happens, what people can do about it. We also partner with anti-trafficking organizations to really engage the public. And then we use our resources to invest in aftercare. And the first 5 years of existence, our investment into aftercare really was just directly to other service providers. In 2018, we launched Brazen Table, which is a culinary training program for survivors of trafficking, recognizing that one of the biggest barriers for health and healing and thriving was the ability to get a job that would enable them to have economic stability.
No, it's phenomenal work. It's very important work. And it's very hard work. I know it's very hard. So now COVID hit, we weren't able to have our virtual celebration day. So since March, obviously being in the restaurant business, obviously being in the culinary training business, like that's had a major impact. So just share kind of what's happened in the last couple of months.
Yeah, COVID has really impacted every single aspect of our organization. So obviously we are a coffee shop. We are a retail space where people come in, consume food and drinks to be able to support the rest of the work that we do. And so we have obviously seen a significant drop in sales since March. We're estimating that we're bringing in about 40 to 50% of what we normally would be, which is really challenging because what is normally our biggest asset as an organization that funds about 60 to 80% of our work normally has dropped in revenue. And so we are finding ourselves at this place where we're figuring out how to continue to do the work that we do with much fewer funds. And so that's one major thing. We also, because we utilize our space to raise awareness about human trafficking, we don't have people in. And so we are unable to do that in the same way that we normally have. And so we have started to try to push a lot of our awareness training online. We've also been spending some time exploring the other issues that really intersect with human trafficking and contribute to it, and trying to give our supporters and people who are learning about human trafficking just the opportunity to engage in a different way with the discussion around human trafficking. Yeah. The last major thing we've done for Brazen Table specifically is that we can't meet our clients face to face. We can't be in a classroom with them right now. And so we have converted to a digital format. So we have just recorded all of our culinary videos. We are creating an online platform where all of this information will be held, and we're distributing it to our partners who can then get it into the hands of the clients. Because we recognize that, while we cannot do this, we cannot do Brazen Table how we anticipated doing Brazen Table, we also know that the economic trauma that is being caused by COVID-19 is going to create a greater number of individuals vulnerable to trafficking and exploitation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's outside of the normal challenges on a business, then just thinking about your, the people that you serve, especially the people that are in situations like that. I can only imagine how much harder it is going to be, and is, because of the economic situation they face. So all the more important work you're doing, and all the more need. Now, just briefly, Project Flourish, this was your second year. You guys were a part of the first iteration, and ultimately you didn't win the money, but just talk about your experience, highs, lows, anything you want to share about Project Flourish, and just how that has benefited you in the last couple of years.
Yeah, like I mentioned, we launched Brazen Table in 2018, and part of that process was being a part of Project Flourish. This was an idea that we were researching and putting pens to paper to start, but Project Flourish was what really catalyzed us to launch Brazen Table when we did. So while we didn't receive the funds, which was a low point, we did.
The first year, yeah.
The first year. We did receive support, and we made connections with individuals who we could partner with in different kinds of ways. And this second year, I would say, because we had already gained a lot of those connections already, and we had gained some of the information that Project Flourish had provided the first year, it just gave us a more opportunity to continue to grow the depth of the program. And so this year was really about restructuring to ensure we're really serving the needs of the clients that we work with.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun to have you both years, and I'm glad that at least 1 year paid off in the end.
Paid off, just
no, you know what I mean. Well, and so Erica, any ways that people can stay in touch with you? Any ways they can support, serve, help you with anything? What do you need, and how could the congregation support you?
Well, first off, if you're getting coffee, come to a Second Cup. We still have curbside to-go orders. You can also shop online. We have lots of fair trade merchandise and things that are made by survivors or vulnerable populations. And that all supports our work, as well as the artisans in the field. But buy your coffee here. If you need coffee and caffeine, you should buy it here. The second thing is that we have our big fundraiser coming up in October. It's a virtual event centered around food. We have one of the most popular chefs in Houston, Chris Shepard, as our headlining chef. And it'll be a really fun event where you get to cook alongside, virtually, a whole lineup of chefs. And it should be just a really fun time.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I've become quite the quarantine chef myself. So I might have to join for that. That sounds kind of fun. So there's a competition for anyone in the congregation who wants to compete with me cooking. Log into this thing. It'll be fun. Anyway, Erica, thank you so much. We are so thankful for you. We're thankful for your work. We're proud of you. We're honored to be able to be a part of what you do. And just thank you for being a participant in Project Flourish.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi judges, I'm Kandria Chilafu, Executive Director and founder of GoBeU, a multimedia and music ministry. GoBeU is targeting our most underserved group in the body of Christ, youth and young adults, ages 12 to 34. We are focused on one thing, engaging the culture with the gospel. GoBeU's mission is to entertain, educate, and evangelize. And when I started GoBeU 3 years ago, I was intending on disrupting the negative effect that commercial hip hop is having on our youth. So I started streaming cutting edge Christian hip hop and R&B, and I developed GoBeU.tv app You know, God has blessed us over the last 3 years to reach over 26,000 listeners globally, with people in South Africa, India, and Great Britain are some of the countries we've actually reached. After launching GoBeU.tv, we have had a strong urge to make an impact in Houston's 3rd Ward. While we were there initially, we recognized that hip hop is discipling our youth with its alluring, attractive, and attention-grabbing images and messages. But we discovered the problem is much greater than that. There are limited creative arts programs in Houston's 3rd Ward schools. IBM has a poll that says that this could negatively impact the financial growth of the community. Champions for Change has found that this could increase the dropout rate and decrease the college graduates there. We've also noticed that there's a decline in the American church that's affecting the 3rd Ward churches. This means that even though we have seen there are almost on every corner church in 3rd Ward, that some of these churches are dying because young people are across the street at clubs from these churches. And why? Because clubs are offering them great music, entertainment, and connectivity. Churches are not the only ones that are struggling reaching young people. Also, underserved and under-resourced nonprofits like Houston's 3rd Ward YWCA, which is the only YWCA in Houston, they are struggling as well. And one of the challenges is they lack the funding and staff to be able to create highly engaging and attention-grabbing media and content. God has blessed GoBeU to have an innovative kingdom movement that has found lasting changes and lasting solutions for these permanent and prominent problems in the community. We develop various forms of entertainment, education, and evangelism, and we also give back. Over the last 2 years, GoBeU has invested into the students of Blackshear Elementary. We are teaching them photojournalism, and this year our students are putting together the first yearbook the school has had in over 20 years. We're also not only teaching them how to be future entrepreneurs with 21st century skills, but we're also teaching them evangelistic relational conversation, and teaching them about just how to live for God in ways that they don't even realize. In the fall, we'll be at Cullen Middle School offering a multimedia and social media course. This will have a legacy for the entire student body. Creative Liturgy is our event that we offer quarterly. It is an educational forum centered around the arts. This has served over the last year and a half over 900 Houstonians. Creative Liturgy is a unique non-traditional space that we've created, non-traditional Christian space that we've created for the purposes of sharing the gospel through poetry, story, and song. This is mainly attracting young people from 19 to 34 years old, but it is a unique gathering of various cultures and ages. And it's also getting the attention of college ministries at TSU, U of H, and Rice. We've accepted invitations from them to recreate Creative Liturgy in their spaces, as well as some prison units around town. Lastly, let's talk about how GoBeU is funded and how we give back. GoBeU's financial stream is a two-way stream. We are a nonprofit that provides professional media services to other nonprofits. We give them nonprofit rates on top of that. What this means is a portion of our rates we absorb as in-kind cost. So the money that they pay us, it also recycles back into the community through our kingdom work. This kingdom work is powered by over 35,000 volunteer hours and saves GoBeU currently about $300,000 a year. We've invested about $30,000 as a team into startup costs, equipment, and venue fund fees, and such expenses like that. We've gotten about $6,000 in media services, about $1,300 in donations, and about $1,000 in merchandise sales. We teach in schools and we provide media services, and this is how we mainly are funded, and we're funding our operations. However, the financial gap for our ministry goals for phase 2 of GoBeU will far exceed our current projected growth. So our financial goal is $155,000, but today we're asking for a little over $85,000. $45,000 of it will go to a trailer and event equipment. About $19,000 to computers, software, and studio equipment for our students, and about $22,000 for 3 years of rental space and a customized marketing plan. Although this will give us kingdom benefits and reap us rewards in heaven one day, they'll also give us financial returns as well. By having our own event equipment that'll spruce up what we already have already, we'll be able to accept invitations like the one from Restoration Community Church. They want us to come in the summer to put on a concert at their youth camp. So we'd be able to take in more of those profits instead of giving it to rental companies for this equipment. Another way is we need an office space for our team to be able to strategize and dream. Right now, we're all over the city in coffee shops and in our homes producing different content. This would give us a place to house our equipment and to be able to dream and strategize and work on new projects like a creative liturgy podcast we can monetize, as well as our tuition-based discipleship program. That would be Go-Be University. Lastly, it would be a marketing plan that we could grow financially as well. So we just need from you guys a way to be able to fund what God's already doing through us, to show the young people that there is a way to live a better life through Christ and to experience hip hop and from a kingdom perspective. So I thank you, and I encourage you to go be you.
Well, hey everybody, I am thankful and excited that you are joining us now with Cece. Cece's from Go Be You Station, Go Be You Media in the 3rd Ward here in Houston, and I'm going to have her introduce herself and share a little bit of the vision behind Go Be You. So Cece, take it away.
Hello everyone, great to be in front of you today. Wish we could be in person, but it is what it is. So yes, I am the founder of Go Be You. And Go Be You is an interactive Christian hip hop and R&B radio platform and a multimedia ministry. And our goal is to entertain, educate, and evangelize through using elements of the hip hop culture to reach our generation.
So Go Be You, how has Go Be You's work been impacted by COVID over these last few months since we saw you back in March?
Yeah, so things have obviously slowed down, I'm sure, for many people, but God has been really faithful. We were able to create and produce a Facebook Live show that we did weekly, and it quickly grew in popularity. It was called Pandemic Radio, and it went for about 3 months, and it was really fun. It grew in popularity, I think, because of the special guests we had. There was many artists from the local Houston area, but also, too, we had people that are doing things in the community that have really impacted and helped people during COVID. So that was a lot of fun. In addition to that, Go Be You, for the past couple of years, has put on an event called Creative Liturgy. And Creative Liturgy is a quarterly event where we bring poets and singers and storytellers together to share the gospel in a creative way. And so because of COVID, we normally have like 150 people in attendance at these events we put on. But we ended up producing it and putting it on film, and we ended up airing it online. And instead of having about 150 people in attendance, we had about 1,300 people watch the event. So it was pretty fantastic. And the theme this time, every Creative Liturgy is themed differently, and this one was on godly manhood and what manhood should look like. And so it was very fascinating. And if anyone would like to check that out, or Pandemic Radio, it's on our Facebook page. GoBeYou.tv, so you can find both those things there. Awesome. And lastly, for our radio platform, we picked up about 3 new volunteers who are going to be, they're in training right now, and they're going to be our on-air personalities. So we'll have some live voices on GoBeYou radio platform soon, as well as we're going to have a young man who interned with us a couple of years ago. He's in college now, he was in high school, and he's produced his own sports podcast. And so we'll be featuring his podcast in the next couple of weeks. We're really excited to be able to have him on the station and be back in our presence again. So it'll be really fun.
Well, it sounds like you've kept busy and you've found plenty of things to do. Talk a little bit about your experience with Project Flourish. What did you take away? How did it serve you? How did it help you? Just talk generally about how Project Flourish and Go Be You, how it helped you.
Yeah, so GoBU is about 3.5 years in existence, and so we're a small company. We are definitely looking to make an impact in the kingdom in our local area. And what Project Flourish helped us do is really stretch when it comes to like the different business thinking, as well as thinking of how to serve not only people that serve with us well, but also serve those in the community well. So it definitely stretched us in our paradigm, as well as it stretched us on how we should set up like different business structures and things like that. And so the resources that Project Flourish availed to us were just priceless. Everyone was so helpful. We really appreciated all the guidance that we got, and I tell you, we are leaps and bounds from where we were in January, the start of this year, to where we are now, as far as just like the things that have been able to be put in place because of Project Flourish for GoBU. So we are very thankful.
Well, it was an honor to have you join us, and it's a privilege for us to get to witness the work you guys do and be a part of it in whatever way we can. How could people, learn more? How could they stay in touch with you? How could they support you going forward? What would you need help with, or what would you share with the congregation?
Yeah, sure. Well, that'd be very, very helpful and grateful if we can have some extra help. We definitely are looking for a couple new volunteers. One would be a social media person. I think every organization is always looking for good social media people, right? We just lost one. He just got married, and so he is off in a different season. So we bless him and his new wife. But also, we are looking for a new editor as well. We do a lot of media content, so that would be helpful. On top of that, GoBU is funded by a media group that we started, and we actually produce media services that are professional on the professional level. We actually market them at non-profit rates, and so we serve a lot of underserved and under-resourced schools, as well as nonprofits, especially in our immediate area. But as you know, that sector has been hit pretty badly for COVID. So that has affected us and the work that we've done with them, and we wanted to complete, as well as new projects that they were hoping to do by this time of the year. So as far as funding goes, we could definitely use some monthly support. We are wanting to up our game as far as our app is concerned. So if you haven't heard about GoBU, check out our free app that you can download. Right now, I wouldn't be offended. It would be perfectly fine. You can listen to Christian hip hop and R&B 24/7, but also to check us out on social and our website. But you'll be able to see the content that we produce. And so we just are looking to update those things as well. So that's the way, for sure.
Awesome. Well, we're excited for you guys. We're thankful for your work, and we're very happy that you were not only a part of Project Flourish, but made winners in the end. So congratulations, and we'll be in touch. Thanks so much, Cece.
Thank you, Austin.